live and good to go. Hopefully the microphone is working. And I did manage to get it in landscape mode, which is rare, so to say, when it comes to live streams. Let's see, you gotta adopt me so I can inherit your collection. Guess I could do that. And can everybody else? Let's see, we got 2 people watching. We'll wait around for some other people to join up and get us all taken care of, get us started here. Got a bad glare on my glasses. See if I can dim that down any. Nope, guess not. Oh well, it'll have to work. So you have to see the glare. I do apologize about the glare. The lighting is kind of rough today outside. Looking good. Thank you, Lori. Appreciate that. Welcome, Scared. I don't know what you're scared about. And Dana, I need more reasons to adopt you. Why should I adopt? I already have 4 dogs and 3 cats, so why should I adopt something else other than, I mean, I guess. It looks like I'm streaming in like really low level. I don't know why. Maybe it's the internet's bad. Hopefully it's a little higher quality than it is on my laptop here. Looks like it's like shooting from an old school cell phone, which I'm not. Do apologize. My comments aren't working here for a moment. Give me 1 second. See if I can fix that. So I do want to see what everybody says. Okay, there we go. It's a tad jerky. Yeah, it's I don't know what is the deal with the quality. I don't know how to change it on my phone. I don't want to touch a bunch of buttons and mess everything up. That's not what I want to touch. Don't want to touch that button. I know I don't want to touch that one. Anyways, hopefully it'll clear up a little bit. And let's see. What kind of dogs do we have? We have what are known as Morkies. They are a mix between a Maltese and a Yorkie. They're about 15 to 20 pound size dogs. Very cute. Very cute. We have one that is like all white Maltese, and then we have one that's like black and brown Yorkie style, and then we have one that's called a cow, so it's black and white. And then we have our female is like long-haired blonde. It's really, really interesting. A mixture of the 4. So got 4 little dogs running around. Let's have some coffee. I do have some right here. I'm going with the iced coffee since it's the afternoon. I don't know if I've gotten anything good to try. It's pretty much the same stuff I had before. You should make some A versus B videos. A versus B, like headphone versus headphone, or are you talking something else here? Like alphabet, everything that start with A and versus things that start with B. That would be interesting. Only review headphones that have A in the letter. Let's see. What do you think about the new Empyrean coming out? The Elite looks really cool. I would love to hear one. Sounds like they made the improvements that needed to be made on it, which were a little bit better detail resolution and maybe just a little bit more of a brighter sound and better detail retrieval, which would be interesting. I would love to hear that. Hopefully one will get sent to me, and I'll be able to compare it versus my MP or tier list. You know, it's funny you mentioned tier list. I was actually mentioning that on Discord to somebody. I'm not a huge fan of them because they're super subjective. But I guess if you look at them in a subjective way, it might work that way. It's a lot of work to put together, though. Are you planning to do video reviews again? All right, so I got asked this earlier today, actually, in a comment, and the question was, what brought me back? And it just felt right to come back and just do reviews. It was just, I like doing written reviews, and I like all the other stuff that I was doing, but there was just something lacking. And so I just felt like I wasn't able to fully connect in my review when it's in written form versus being on video. And so I kind of like doing the writtens or the videos more than written. So yeah, you could say I'm coming back on that. They might be a little bit more scripted than they used to be. They might be a little bit more along those lines. Who knows? We'll see how it goes. I'm just going to kind of play it headphone by headphone. Now the Rawson video was rather long. That is not the plan going forward. The plan will be 5 to 10 minute videos, hopefully 5 to 10 minutes. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think video reviews pretty much is going to go that way. A few things will still come out in written, like comparisons and stuff like that. Things that maybe don't fully deserve a video on their own might get thrown into a written, and then you can just click on it if you want, things like that. Some items that maybe don't get a full fleshed out video review, maybe we'll have a more written review that you can kind of get a little bit more idea of how they sound that way. We'll see how it plays out going forward, but definitely video reviews are going to be the mainstay. Hopefully everybody's happy with that. Let's see. You have the Empyrean. I don't have hope. It's an artwork, but this sound is not as good as it looks. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Tony. I think that the sound is very good for what it is. It's a very different type of approach to music, which is what draws it to me. But I can understand where some might not like that sound signature. Totally. Let's see. You're tempted to get a blue GSX Mini. Yes, they're very good. Review will be coming soon on that. Save your wallet and tell me what's wrong with it. What's wrong with the GSX Mini? It gets really hot. That's like the only negative. Let's see. You have a Stelia, an OG Clear, an MG Clear, a Sundara, and some mid-fives from the past. It would pair really well with all of those. The only ones that I might struggle a little bit with is the OG Clears. It might be a little too clean for that. It might bring out the treble a little bit too much. Depends on what DAC that you're including with it, but it's a really good amplifier. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Spyros, same thing. All right. Tier list is handy for people who want to buy stuff. There was a time I was looking for the H800s, Aria, Stax, L700s. Wish I had watched more reviews with different opinions. Yeah, that comes in handy. So I can understand the appeal for a tiers list. I might put one together. I mean, it might be fun. I do have a lot into plate right now, though, so maybe that'll be something down the road when things kind of slow down a little bit here in the office. It's been pretty hectic. Lots of packages arriving. Let's see. Actually, written reviews don't take as much time as you would think, because written reviews I can build as I'm listening to them, and kind of it's just like me solidifying my thoughts. So it's basically the same process as I was formulating a video, except I actually had more time taken up by putting together the video, trying to get it to look right somewhat. Believe it or not, they did take several takes, even though they were kind of a one-take shot. There were several attempts at it, and that took a lot of time. And then it takes a lot of time to wait for it to upload and put all the information into the descriptions, things like that. So it's not really much of a difference in time, believe it or not. Let's see here. Pure class, class A. Is that what you're talking about on the amp? Yeah, I mean it's hot. It really does get warm. I have to put a fan blowing on it to keep it somewhat cool, or else it'll be a scorcher. And then I have, when I have the tube, the Tor audio on, and I have the Burson Funk. That thing's a heater, and it was like, whew, it's hot in this office when all three of those are running. Let's see. You have the benchmark AHB2. Do you think that the GSX is better? I haven't heard that, but only like very briefly. It's a very good amplifier. It's a little, if I remember correctly, now it's been a while since I heard that amp, and I heard it on like a couple headphones for a brief moments. I think that's a little bit more towards the sterile side versus the GSX Mini adds just a little bit of like a kiss of naturalism, a little bit more of the musicality side to it without coloring the sound unnaturally or unrealistically. So it kind of depends on which way you're going. But they're really close, if I remember correctly, especially in like everything else, detail retrieval, resolution, all of the things that are important on an amplifier. So you've already got a really solid amp. If you could try them, maybe. I don't know. Again, I haven't heard them side by side. Shit, Bifrost 2. That review will be coming out. I actually have one on extended loan, thanks to a person that is on Discord. And I really enjoy the Bifrost 2. So I have two DACs right now that I use on a regular basis. The Mytek Liberty and the Bifrost 2. And they're extremely similar, but a little bit different. The Bifrost 2 has a little bit more lushness to it, a little bit more just overall romanticism in the sound. And it does a soundstage that's like enveloping around you. And it's very wide and just present and just engaging and immersive sounding. And the difference really between the Mytek and the Bifrost in those two areas also is detail retrieval and resolution is slightly better on the Mytek, in my opinion. And then the tone and timbre just sounds a little bit more natural on the Mytek than it does on the Bifrost. But they're like that close together, and they're really close. If I didn't have a Mytek, the Bifrost would be my choice. Let's see here. We don't have 100% agree with your tier list, but it's a good indication of what we can or should expect. Yeah, absolutely. Tier lists do that. You know, you don't have to like say, okay, Dave says this is number one and this one's the absolute worst. We might all agree on what's the absolute worst one. But anyways, yeah, it's like kind of, okay, he thinks that it does this better than this one or that one. I can see that. Sure. I'll see what I can do for you. No promises though on a time frame. Yeah, the Bifrost, that's it's really good. Scared you would like it. Let's see. You reviewed a wide range of price classes. Maybe you should make a video of each category of what you think is a sweet spot. That wouldn't be a bad idea. For both IEMs and headphones, DACs and amps, I have had a decent amount of experience in all those. That might be an interesting one, a video to do. Kind of have some thoughts on that, but I don't know if I want to share them quite yet. Good idea, though. Really good idea. Yeah, the Elite, I really want to hear. I'm going to probably reach out to Meze and see if they'll send one. Who knows? Maybe. I'm sure that I'll be on the bottom of the list there for the Elite, but maybe eventually we can get one in. Let's see. Hello from the Netherlands. Hello. Is it Harold? Awesome. Netherlands. Great place. I haven't been there, but I've always wanted to visit. Uh, and a video explaining the next step up. So do like, okay, here's like the sweet spot, and then where does it go from there type of thing? That'd be interesting. The the blue cup ring is awesome on the Rawson. I might be able to get it out. Give me a second. Anytime I can show this off, I don't have a problem doing it. There you go. Yeah, that blue just pops. Crazy thing is, it'll match anything in my office. So I really, really do enjoy it. You can kind of see the depth there. It's just got all these little different looks to it. It's just craziness. See if we can get the top here. Yeah, it doesn't show it too well there. Anyways, yeah, that's a gorgeous headphone. All right, what else we got? Hello, Tony from Holland. Now, awesome, Holland. Now, I've been to Holland, Michigan, but I've never been to the real Holland. But Holland, Michigan's kind of cool. Let's see. Yes, I totally agree. They are absolutely beautiful. Someone asked me if I think that which one's prettier, the Empyrean or the Rawson. And it's like the Empyrean is like the premium luxury line. You know, you get all the leather, you get the real luxurious just look and quality product. And then the Rawson is like the artistic luxury that you see, you know, like the big fancy picture or just the artistic quality of something. And so they're a little bit different, but they're similar. Like they're both luxury, but they're both in different veins, and it kind of just depends on which way you flow. Um, I kind of lean towards the artistic flair for them, just because I think they're a little just more unique. But the Empyrean is unique in its own way, for sure. Let's see. Most people start seriously with the 789. Maybe that was the sweet spot that, but have times changed? I don't know. The 789 is still a really good amplifier. And there's a lot of amplifiers I would take the 789 over, especially the topping A90. I would take 789 over the A90 every single time. The 789 just has cleanness, details. It's not compressed like the A90 is. And it just has just a little bit of, even though it's a little bit starkness and a little bit more sterileness to it, it just has something about it that the A90 lacks. The A90 just sounds dead. And the 789 is way better. So if you're considering the 789 or the A90, I would recommend the 789. Let's see. What do you think about the Bifrost 2 and the GSX Mini with the Rossing or with the Focals? It's a great pairing with the Rawson. I really do enjoy it with the Rawson a whole lot. Adds just a little bit of warmer touch to it and a little thickness to it, and kind of puts it in the relaxation chill type of headphone sound. Whereas with the Mytek, takes the Rawson and the GSX Mini and the Rawson to a more clinical analytical side. So it kind of changes that headphone. As far as the clear would go with that, I think it would take away that little bit sharp, intense treble. It would kind of round it off a little bit, maybe, and tighten it up just a bit. And you might lose that intensity that you can get. It might help the timbre too on the Focal. I think it would be a really good pairing, truthfully. Let's see. I don't know. I think the 789 is really good in transients. I don't think it's soft. I disagree with that. I think it depends on with the DAC that you have paired with it. Um, Asgard 2, 3, or the Jotunheim 2. Haven't heard any of those, so I can't add in there. Let's see. Stealth looks interesting. I would love to get a review of those and too. Dan Clark, if you're listening, I would like to review one of those, please. Let's see. 789 with the Bifrost 2 actually helps a lot. Would help a lot. That would take away that little bit of sterileness and edge that the 78 and bite that the 789 has, and it would smooth it just a little bit. That would be a really nice pairing. Unfortunately, I don't have a 789 to pair it with, but I could imagine that would be a very good sound. I think that the 789 is probably the first real major step that you can take as far as an amplifier. You go from your budget stuff to the 789 and you'll notice a significant difference, and then you can go higher up from there. But the 789 holds its own versus a lot of stuff. And as I said, especially against the A90. Yeah, I agree. The 789 does lack that little bit of feeling, which you can change a little bit with a DAC, depending on what DAC you put into it. But if you want a clean, clear, and very detailed and accurate sounding amplifier, I would go with 789. Well, Andrew, I understand. To each their own. There's nothing wrong with disagreeing about amplifiers. It really does depend on how you have it paired, what headphones you're using, and that's what makes this whole thing fun is and enjoyable. I like hearing other people's experiences and seeing what they pair and what they think versus like what I pair, what I've heard, and things like that. So it's what makes the whole community fun is getting to hear each other's experiences. That's uh that's the whole joy is I never understood why people get their panties in a bunch because one person doesn't agree with them about a certain product or not. You know what? If you love the topping A90, cool. I'm glad you enjoy it, but I didn't enjoy it. So I, I enjoyed the 789. I enjoyed the GSX Mini. Um, Maybe you didn't like it so much. Cool. Same thing with headphones. Now you've got three top tier phones. Do you ever go back to your Fostex? I don't have very much Fostex around actually. The only ones that I have are over here in the corner. I can't reach them, but you can see them. They're the T50s with the curly maple. They're the lighter wood ones next to the Mezes. But yes, I do listen to them. Not quite as frequently as I used to, but I still do listen to them. I never got to hear the O2 amp. I've always heard it was good, but I never got to hear it. Very true. The GSX Mini colors definitely are better than the 789. 789 is one of those. It's an amplifier. It's black. It's got a little bit of lettering on it. Nothing special for sure. If you have a blind spot, how can you tell if the colors are better? That's true. Yeah, that would be a bummer. All right, let's see here. I was really torn between the blue and the green of the GSX Mini, and then the green wasn't available, so I went with blue. I'm really glad I went with the blue. It all worked out. So, what is my favorite budget planar magnetic headphone? Define budget for me. I usually put budget headphones at $300-ish range. Is that fair for you? If you want something a little bit lower, I can give you a better defined answer. Would I try the triple win melee? Yeah, actually I would. If one gets sent to me, I would love to hear it. I'm curious to see the differences that are put into it, into that driver, to see how much more, if it's better resolving, if it's not quite as bassy, things like that. I'd be curious to see how it comes out. $200 to $500. Okay, so if you're on the more $200 range, I would get the Hi-Fiman HE5XX from Drop. Very cheaply made. Probably feel like they'll drop. If you drop them once, they'll break. So they're very fragile, but they sound spectacular. They have a really nice wide soundstage, a nice and very cohesively sounding frequency. It's very, very well controlled. I really enjoy the 5XX. A review will be coming out on those. If you want to step it up a little bit, and you want to go to about the $350 range, I would go with the Sundara. Sundara is better than the 5XX, but in my opinion, the Sundara does the details and the clarity a little bit better and just has a little bit more body to it. Not quite as good as soundstage as the 5XX. And then if you go up to $500, you're depending on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a fun can and something with big bass and just overall just an enjoyment factor, I'd probably go Argon T60. But if you are looking more for something a little bit more analytical, things get a little tougher, because if you use the used market, you could do a Nanda. I don't know. That's a good question. Getting up in the $500 range, things get a little bit more sketchy. But I would definitely start with 5XX or the Sundara. Desktop audio, which extends the gaming audio. Drop in fragile, good match. Yeah, I mean, they will honor their warranty some. I haven't had issues with that, but I've heard horror stories on other sides. So it's a chance and it's a risk, but it is a good headphone as far as sonics. And if you're careful with it, you shouldn't have any issues. But I understand that sentiment. Desktop audio, which goes to gaming. I actually don't use any desktop setups with gaming. I do all my gaming on my PlayStation now. So sorry, I'm not really the person to answer that question. The only real things I have that would plug in are like Sound Blaster X6 and things like that, and I probably wouldn't go that way. You like your opinion, but don't forget that they need a little more amp. That's actually a good reminder. Thank you very much. If you do go planar, you will need a little bit more powerful amp, something probably at least 1 watt, maybe 2 watts of power. So that's good. Good suggestion there. Abyss headphones. Yes, I would love to review Abyss headphones if one gets sent in for review. They don't like to get moved around too much and shared. Let's see. The poor man's end game is a Hi-Fiman HE6 SE for about $600. Sounds similar to a Susvara. Interesting. I haven't heard the HE6 SE, but I've heard really good things about it from the people that have heard it, including you. SB is crap. Sound Blaster. They can be, and the only reason why I threw that out is that's like the only gaming thing that I have. I do use them with my PlayStation, but I'm not being like uber picky. So that's the only reason why I threw that out there. They were asking for that, so that's my defense. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Best headphones for ultra budget consumer under $50. I would go with these. I'll go with the Superlux HD 681 Evos. And if you have a few pennies left over, replace the pads with like Brainwaves XLs. Let's see. I have some very expensive Sound Blaster cards, AWE 64s. Yeah. IEMs sound better. Depends on what you're looking for. If you really are looking for a headphone, the Superluxes aren't bad. You can get some pretty good IEMs for $50 though, for sure. $100 for headphones. I'm very limited, actually, believe it or not, in headphones. It depends on what you're going for, sound-wise. You could go with like the AKG K275s I have back here. You can go with Audio Technicas, depending on if you want a little bit more bass. If you really want a lot of bass, you could go with the AKG K371s. Just don't use them in a studio. Do you do any listening to analog sources or all digital? I do. Mostly digital, but I do not have any vinyl. My cat is like driving me nuts. I can hear it. Is that the door? um, but yeah, I do not have any vinyl at the moment, but I do want to get into that. But every now and then at friends' houses and stuff, I do listen. But most of my sources are digital. Let's see. Bummer, they're not available in your area. Sorry to hear that. Now you should spend more. Let's start with the 580, 58X. I haven't heard the 58X, but I do have the 580. Going dynamics. It wouldn't be a bad start at the price point. Mr. Singh, you are very welcome for the Rex. And thank you for following for so long. Do greatly appreciate it. For dynamics and punchiness, you need a stacks. Yeah. Haven't gotten into stacks yet either. Ship 9500s, haven't heard. Monoprice retros, as long as you're willing to mod them and tinker with them. And Superluxes are very good. AKG K240s are a good start, especially if you like mids and vocals. Have to replace the pads on those if I remember correctly, though. I think the AKGs, the pads were like super paper thin. See, 580 was your first headphone. Had it for 30 years. I believe it. I believe it. I actually can see like if you've heard the LR600 series, you can definitely hear the beginnings in the 580 and how it kind of transitioned and conformed and evolved type of thing. It's kind of a unique. I like it. A while back, I said I would be quitting. Actually, I never said I was quitting. I said I wasn't going to be doing video reviews, but I did continue doing reviews. I did written reviews, and something just didn't connect with doing the written reviews versus the video reviews, and it just kept pulling me back. I wasn't able to connect with the community, and so that's the reason why I've gotten back into the video part. 30 years. Yeah, that's a long time. That's Sennheiser lasts. It's the weirdest thing because you hold them and you're like, these are plastic. These things are going to fall apart. And then 10, 20, 30 years later, you still have them. And the only thing you've had to replace is the headband padding and the pads. And the baffles, because the baffles are foam. Half of your salary back then for the 580. How much did they go for 30 years ago? Were they $300, $400? I don't know. I never looked that up. Be curious to see how they You've had the 340 since 1980. Wow. I haven't heard the 340. I've only heard the 240. Are they really significantly different? DMS tries to make a 6XX closeback. I haven't seen that. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, written ones take a lot more to get people to read. I don't know if it's because they just don't have the time to read them, or if they just don't like reading, or if I'm not a good writer. Who knows? But for some reason, it just didn't flow with the community. It just wasn't there. What headphone is closest to me? You talking this one here? Or this one here in the case? Because the one closest to me actually is a Superlux HD681 Evo. But this is the Meze 99 Classic. That's the Vibro Labs Curly Maple, which is the white one. And then down here is the AKG K275s. And then off screen is a bunch of other stuff that you guys can't see. And then, of course, down here in the case are the beauties, also known as the Red Zero or the Rawson Audio Design. Let's see. Oh, which one's, I'm sorry, I didn't see the rest of your question. Which one is closest to me, like emotionally? The one that makes me the most emotional to listen to actually is the Empyrean. It gives me like this just chilled, puts me in the moment type of feel that no other headphone can do. Hi-Fi Man 400Is are patched together with tape, not built to like. Yeah, the 400i, is that the original 400s? Those were like really, really chintzy build. Give me one moment. Let me see if I can reach the 5XX. So, you mentioned the 400i. The 5XX actually feels like that. It's got that same headband, and it has that really bad sound when you slide it, and it's really loose. So if you put it here, it just falls. It does not stay in place. And they make that name. They're so light and chintzy made, and this part's plastic. This is the part I'm worried about the most breaking, just like the 400 eyes were. But they sound good. And nice thing is, they do have the screws, so you could probably get a different headband for it, and then you'd have the good drivers. So they're just chinchily made, just like the original 400s, but 3.5s instead of those atrocious screw-on connectors that the original 400s had. Let's see. €400 with inflation. Wow. Yeah, that's like craziness. I didn't even think that they would have went that high back then. Wow. That's pretty impressive that they went that high back in the day, 30 years ago. $350 for the 580. It's a lot of money back then in 1994. Are the Red Zero close in sound to an Odyssey? Yes, they're actually somewhat similar to an LCDX. They kind of remind me of LCDX, but more linear, and a little bit more filled out in the upper mids. They don't have that dip like the LCDX has. Should try the new Hi-Fi 400 SE. I've heard good things about it. I'm curious how it would compare to like the 5XX, to see if it is, because those go for 220 and the 400 SE is what, 159, 160, something like that. Yeah, the 58X worth every penny. It will last for years. They're oddly the most fatiguing headphone you have. Which ones are? I'm sorry. Particularly good tube amp for the 580s. Yeah. Yeah, I really like basically any Sennheiser on tubes. And there's just something about them, they just connect with tubes. Yeah, that's the plastic galore. The only metal part, and it's not really that good a metal, is the yoke. Everything else is plastic, even the cups. The screens, maybe. I don't know. These are really cheap feeling. Porta Pros and Samsung SR850s. Those are actually really good for under about 40 bucks. Also another good suggestion. Haven't heard the Samsungs, but Porta Pros are really good, especially if you like a little warmer sound. But if you have hair, be careful. That band can make you not have hair. Let's see. I have not heard the HE1000 SE. I've heard that it's a very efficient headphone, though. Yes, it's very easy to drive. The Sundara is a really good build for a hi-fi man, actually. I don't have any problem with it. Do wish it kind of swiveled a little bit, but other than that, it's a really good headphone. It's over there. I can't reach it. Let's see. Hi-fi man headband for the 560 V2s are 40 bucks. Yeah, I would probably slap that onto these if you had any problems with the headband breaking. Let's see here. Porta Pro or the MDR ZX110s. I don't remember the 110, so I really can't offer there. I know I've heard it, but I just don't remember what it sounded like. KS75s. I would take the 75s, truthfully. Have to change the pads. That seems to be pretty popular with the Samsungs, the Superluxes, and there's another brand that's real similar. I don't remember the name of it now, but they all look basically alike and sound pretty similar. They're all about the same price. You have to change the pads. So pads are terrible. Okay, so the MDR ZX110s are good for phone calls. Okay. Porta Pros are very good. Yes, they are. They're very fun. Simple. You just stash them away. I should attempt to get a HE6SE since it has a flagship class planar driver. Okay. I'll definitely look into seeing if I can get one in for a review. Definitely lots of mods for hi-fi men. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, what that says about hi-fi men. Let's see, I saw something else here. Somebody was talking about treble peaks on the 400i. Yeah, I think that I think there was a little bit of trouble if I remember correctly. Can't remember for sure. Views on the Nothing Ear 1. Really doesn't interest me, truthfully. Anything that has the name Nothing in the name is kind of like, What is your point of view on digital versus analog, and why do you lean more towards digital sources? I lean more towards digital sources because I use PC and mobile for pretty much everything, and I do a lot of local files, just that are downloaded like rips from CDs, things like that. I just haven't gotten into analog much as far as a personal usage. As far as sound, it kind of just depends on how it's transitioned over and converted. They both sound very good, and in my opinion, on some sources and on some gear, analog sounds better, and on other ways, digital sounds better. It's just kind of hit or miss. Either way, whichever way you prefer, I don't have any issues with it either way. It's just kind of the way I roll. Whatever makes you happy, stick with it. Let's see. Four-handed eye isn't natural. I don't remember it actually being very natural sounding. It's like a fun sound, but I don't think it really has natural tone and timbre. Um, 6SE needs a speaker amp. Oh, so it has. So it's pretty hard to drive. Apparently, didn't know that. Vinyl nowadays are the dumps of the CD or dumps of the CD. That's interesting. Let's see. I want to recommend you to review the brand new 7 Hertz Timeless, which is a planar item with almost perfect tuning. I saw that. Somebody recommended that on Discord. It does look very interesting. Planars and IEMs have been a very hit or miss. And I did see the graph. They sent the graph to me, and I did find that to look rather interesting. I'd be curious to see how that sounds. Do I use Tidal or Spotify? Premium is enough. I actually use Tidal. Been using Tidal for years. I'm just well into their ecosystem. Um, I so I use it on my phone and on my computer, but I do mostly when I'm listening on my computer, I listen to my local files. But anyways, I use Tidal. I also use Amazon HD. The only reason why I use Amazon HD is because I'm an Amazon Prime customer, so I get it for free. And then I have Spotify, but I don't have premium. I'm curious about the up version, the updated version of Spotify. Haven't heard it yet. I might take a look into it. They're all fairly similar. There's a little bit differences here and there. And it depends on whether or not you want like the higher bitrate type stuff that is offered. You just use your ears and trust your ears and use the one that sounds the best is what I have to say. Because that's all that really matters. Cobus and Rune. See, I don't like Rune. I use Rune. I have Rune. I'm more of an Audirvana person. I prefer Audirvana. But if you're into streaming and you like the Rune integration, I totally understand that, and it works flawlessly that way. Cobuzz is okay. I didn't like Cobuzz as much as Tidal. I found that Cobuzz sounded a little too sheeny and glary to me. Didn't sound quite as accurate as Tidal. But again, to each their own. If you like it, cool. Totally understand that. I'm not going to say one is better than ever because it comes on to preference. I like Audirvana as a user face, but I've been an Audirvana user for quite a while versus Rune is kind of new to me, so maybe that's why I don't like it as much. Let's see. 6XX or Sundara. I would pick Sundara and a 600 over a 6XX. Best dongle DAC, $50 for warm IEMs. I'd actually get the Veclin Audio Odyssey HD. Or you can get the X Duo Link, the original one. They're both really good, but one's $50 and one's $10. So if you can get the Odyssey HD for $10, I'd just get that. Mostly listen to classical and jazz. Good. So do I. Love those two genres. Favorite music artists, favorite music genres, and what artists. I listen to a lot of classical music from pretty much anything. It doesn't matter the orchestra, and it doesn't matter if it's like an electronic integrated orchestra or if it's a full blown acoustic orchestra. I love it. Listen to it all from big, broad in classical music. Jazz, same way. I listen to pretty much anything. And it doesn't matter if it's electronic jazz, new age jazz, or everything in between. I listen to jazz, new and old. I also listen to a lot of just like electronic types music. And I listen to, of course, all the old classic rock. The older metal type stuff, and a bunch of other things in between. Just I'm very broad. As far as favorite artists, way too many to mention. But a couple that are my go-tos. I love David Phelps, and I like Sandy Patty. Those are two of my go-to artists as far as for vocals that I test. Let's see. Also experimenting with HQ player. That's interesting. I've heard that that does enhance the Rune experience. Haven't used it. Indie rock pop here. Awesome. Yeah, when you have multiple setups, comes in handy, and I only have one at my desk, so Rune's kind of like it's good, but I don't really have the purpose for everything. So I say if you do have all the multiple setups, Rune would be better than Audirvana in that regard. So I completely understand that. I really do. I mean, it's not that Rune's bad. It's just I like Audirvana better. It's just a preference thing. Um, let's see. LG phone. I had one about 4 years ago. Um, I have not listened to anything with Apple. The only time I use an Apple device is when I'm running the soundboard at church because I have an iMac Mini, and that's the only time I use Apple. What is your opinion on Focal headphones? I actually like Focal headphones a lot. Haven't had very many that I haven't not liked. The one thing that Focal does struggle with a little bit on their headphones, especially a couple of their lower priced ones, is timbre tends to be a little bit on the metallic side. But other than that, I really like Focals. For audio, always preferred the library instead of streaming. For the most part, yes. There are some things I do test when I'm doing my reviews. I do include some of my streaming stuff. That way I can hear how a headphone, whether or not it reveals artifacting and stuff like that that comes in from streaming sources. And I do include actually a playlist. If you look at all my reviews, there's always a playlist on Tidal that lists some of the songs that I use. But the majority of my listening is actually from uh, local files. Yeah, the metadata is a little funky at times on the Rune. I did notice that, but that could be based off of a lot of things. That could be part of Rune, could be part of the just the database as a whole. Could be from wherever you're getting the information, from what the actual source is, things like that. I mean, there's all kinds of issues that could include that. Um, Yeah, I've heard that Rune takes up a lot of computer space and requires a lot of power. My computer is fairly competent at my desk. It's not like top of the line anything, but it's fairly competent. It's no slouch. What watch do I wear? Currently, right now, I have a Samsung Active 2. I have a bunch of other ones that I never wear anymore. Did you listen to the language songs like Indian, Bangladesh, Pakistani, or other Japanese? Try different instruments and different techniques. Yeah, actually, I do. I actually really like there's a lot of different classical composers that are in the different languages, a little foreign to me, and I really enjoy like the different unique instruments that they bring into their compositions. I really do enjoy that. Sorry, the names slipped me. I don't have them directly in front of me. I'm going back through here. Uh, go to audio science reviews for DAC dongle reviews. Oh, he does some DAC dongles. Didn't know that. It's got some interesting stuff over there that you'd be able to get some opinions on, see some varying measurements and graphs about how the dongles work and what they work with and don't work with. So you might be able to get some good information over there. I didn't know he did such things. Should make a Spotify playlist for non-title users. I actually take the playlist, so I have the playlist link, and then also I list out each song and the artist so that you can go on and look them up individually. What university did I go to? I attended Bob Jones University in Greenville, South Carolina. Okay, so you had speed problems with Rune until you updated your DAC, and then it does bit perfect. That's nice. Excuse me. Sorry. I'm tired. Been up all day. Not getting my Sunday afternoon nap. Thought I saw another question that I missed. Trying to look. How am I doing today for real? I'm doing good. I'm tired. Stayed up way too late last night. I was, I don't know, I just lost time. I was playing, let's see, what was it? I was in a set of Corsa Compensione. I was in a race and I just was like zoned out. I was just like doing my race. And then I was like, I'll do another one. I didn't even look at my watch to see what time it was. And then it ended up being like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was like, I have got to go to bed. I've got to get up early. So, so yeah, I only got like 5 hours of sleep. But yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing real good. Thanks for asking. Uh, Text out the Tantrum Tanya. Is that the cheap one? I don't remember. That's true. Conversions do take a long time and they take up a lot of storage space. Uh, Everyone asks, where is Dave? What is Dave? But no one asks, how is Dave? Hey, at least they're asking. The Tanya is better than the MH755, huh? Interesting. Your back hurts. You slept wrong. Well, that's a bummer. That's never fun to deal with. I'm sorry to hear that. You need to have dogs because dogs are great at giving massages even when you don't want it. They just like walk all over you if you let them in the bedroom. Um, Malaysia Airlines. I'm sorry. I don't know what the Malaysia Airlines link is. I don't know if I'm supposed to be looking for plane tickets on Malaysia Airlines. Yeah, we our dogs are small, and so when they were young, my wife was like, "Oh, they can just come in the bedroom and they can just sleep. They'll be fine. They'll sleep at the end of the bed." Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Dogs tend to think that they have just as many rights as you do, and that they need pillows. So, my uncle back in the day, he had a Great Dane, and he used to allow the great. He had a like a king size bed when he was single, and so he allowed his Great Dane to sleep, and they just one had one side of the bed, and he had the other. And when he got married, he had to yeah, his wife was like, no way, no Great Dane in our bedroom. And so for like the first 2 or 3 months that they were married, they'd stick the Great Dane out in the hallway, and he'd just howl all night long, wanting to get in. That was pretty funny. Anyways, MH755 missing airplane some years ago. Oh, that's a bummer. I worried about that. I took some headphones and my Sony WM1A with me when we went on vacation to Aruba, And I must have checked my seat and my bag and everything about 5 times before we exited the plane just to make sure that it was in there. I was like, I don't want to forget it. I always worry about leaving stuff on the airplane. Yeah, it was he struggled with that Great Dane trying to, yeah, because the thing was spoiled. It was his baby, you know, it was his little dog, and he had it since he was a puppy. I think he had the Great Dane for like 2 or 3 years before he got married. So it was, you know, they were like best buds. Hopefully your back does get feeling better. Really, um, if you have a one of those heating pads, I would recommend using that. That always helps. And drinking warm coffee or tea will help also. And of course, Tylenol or Dones if you can take Dones. And if you have one of those things that you can put on your back and it like vibrates and massages your back, those work really well too. Am I turning into a health? I'm turning into a health channel here on YouTube, right in front of all your eyes. Oh, the things we discuss on live stream. Oh man! All right, so I'm gonna ask an audio question. That way we can get back on track. How important do you feel accurate frequency response is? Are we going off of just the graph being accurate, or the headphones matching the graph, or just which way are you looking at it from? Because there's a lot of ways to answer that question. There you go. See, you just got a latte and a heating pad. You're headed in the right direction. You're headed in the right direction. Now all you need is a dog to step on your back for you, and you'll be good. So which way, VM? Which way are you talking about the accurate frequency response? I'm curious if you could point me in the direction that you are thinking, and then I'll kind of answer. Um, or do you just want me to ramble? All right, here we go. Recent favorite movie anime for soundtracks and music. Hmm. Well, anime is not really something that I'm very much in touch with. I don't really watch that too much, so I'm not sure about that one. But as far as movies, recent movies and soundtracks, I actually the I like Tyler a lot, um, and the soundtrack for the latest Rambo movie is actually really good. Believe it or not, Rambo: Last Blood has a really good soundtrack. Um, Brian Tyler did a good job with that. There's a let's see, there was another one that I came across recently that I really enjoyed. One that no one ever talks about, soundtrack wise, that's actually really good, is by Hans Zimmer. And it's for the movie Rush. That actually has a really good soundtrack as well. And the soundtrack for Joker is actually really good too. So like a darker type of sound of music, and it's a little bit um it's very like mellow and kind of chilling and sad, but at the same time it has a lot going on within it. It's very good. Also, it's a really good movie too. So yeah, Joker. Did I hear the RHA CL1? I did not. Wanted to, and then everybody was like, "No, you don't want to." But so I never got to hear that. The Mest, I have not heard. I want to. I'm supposedly supposed to get one in for review at some point. We'll find out. Okay, so frequency response. I think that frequency response is important. If you're going off just based off of graphs, I think it's just a tool, And I think that it is something that when you hear the headphone, you should listen to the headphone first before you look at the graph. And then you should use it to kind of go, okay, I hear some peaks and I hear some valleys and I hear this and I hear that. And maybe use it to kind of, uh, compare what you're hearing, but don't use it to judge the headphone or the IEM itself. And do not use the graphs to determine what you're hearing. Let your ears determine what you're actually hearing. VM says accurate as in following a target such as Harman or diffuse field in case of speakers, for example. I think that's pretty well established target for flat response, not so much for that for headphones. Totally agree. Okay, so I think that when you're looking at a target frequency response targets, you're looking at Harman target specifically is a preference. It is not an actual target, so to speak. I guess it's a target for a certain sound signature. Whereas diffuse field is actually more accurate, and I believe it's more neutral sounding. I believe it is actually more natural and correct sounding. Harman target to me does not sound neutral, does not sound natural. It is a preference for basically a fun signature. That's all it is. As far as speakers go, yes, I think it is a preset standard for them as far as being flat. And then as far as headphones being flat neutral, you really never truly quite get there. I do believe that there is little valleys and peaks throughout a frequency to make it sound neutral. Whereas if someone always says this is always neutral, and this is the only one that is neutral, it won't sound neutral to everybody, because I believe everybody has kind of a interpretation of what they believe is neutral and natural sounding. Hopefully that answered your questions. Let's see here. Yes, for headphones and IEMs, they definitely need to study more. And also they need to kind of hone in like what they're testing and who they're testing, instead of just randomly pulling people off and then just playing certain songs. Because people probably will tend to prefer, the average consumer will tend to be like, oh, I want just this bassy sound with a little bit of details here. Whereas people that are a little bit more trained, a little bit more critical listening, a little bit more seasoned, so to speak, I guess, will probably be looking for more intricacies and more details and accuracy versus the average consumer, which is what the Harman target goes after. You tried some apps for that target and it sounded awful. Totally agree. Let's see. Changing cables do a lot for music presentation. Very important thing. Cables are very much one of those ones where they can or can't make a difference. Maybe, maybe not. It's usually differences are subtle at best. And I think that the majority of differences in sound that you will hear, especially within a certain price point and down, is going to be your tone is going to change, and your texture of your music will change. So like copper will be a little bit warm and lush, and silver will be a little bit more trebly, a little bit more energetic sounding, sparkly. As you get further into gear and higher up, cables tend to make more of a difference and become more noticeable as you pair with pricing. At least that's what I've noticed. And also, the more the revealing the gear, the more you'll notice the differences, for the good or the worse. I'm sorry. Same price range, IEMs versus headphones versus speakers. I think there's a big difference. If you're going to, let's say your price point is $100, there is a significant difference between $100 IEM and $100 headphone. There's also a massive big difference between $100 headphone, $100 IEM, and $100 speaker. I think that you kind of need differences in your base starting points in order to get a similar kind of quality sound. I think your budget begins at a different level for your sweet spot. Someone recommended me doing a video on that. going forward in the future, and I probably will do something like that, but I don't know exactly when that would be. Cable is a physical filter. That's one way to go, a good way of putting it. Um, it's it does change things, but a lot of times it's is it really worth it? And so usually I buy a cable for the aesthetics because the the original that comes with it, usually with hi-fi is janky. And so I'll get a replacement cable because it just feels better and looks better. Um, I'm usually not buying a cable to make it sound better. How transparent is a Harman target? I don't think it's very transparent at all. I think that the Harman target is very V-shaped, and you lose a lot of details. Now, you can get some that are better implemented in the gear. I think the transparency part comes in the gear part of it rather than the actual frequency response. Um, but for the most part, the majority of specifically Harman tuned gear just doesn't sound the same and doesn't sound very revealing, very transparent. With speakers, you also need to keep room acoustics in mind. That's very true. In my small bedroom, for example, I have a room made that causes a large dip in the 100 to 80 hertz range. This makes all your speakers in my room. Yeah, I told absolutely. You can get a lot of different acoustical differences with speakers. Um, just the subtlest of angle changes will make them sound completely different. How close they are to walls. If you have one that's closer to a wall than another, you'll get some weird reflections, things like that. Absolutely. Room acoustics definitely changes a speaker, um, for sure. Also, amplifiers make a huge difference when it comes to speakers if you're using passive speakers. Tony, like, what do I need? Well, it depends on what you're offering. I could use $1 million. One of the speaker that I currently have, actually, when I got the Burst and Funk in for review, I decided to buy some speakers, and I bought the Sony SC5S or S5s. I don't remember the model number. It's got a typical Sony number, but they're a three-way speaker, so they got two tweeters and one woofer. Things are pretty sweet. I actually like them. Got them on a deal on Amazon for like $118, uh, and they're pretty stellar. More information about that when the Burst and Funk review comes out in a little bit. What do I need? Well, I already said $1 million. Let's see what else. I could use a Focal Utopia, Hi-Fi and Susvara, Benchmark DAC amps. Uh, I could use a bunch of stuff. I'll put a list together for you. Let's see. Is there a sonic blind spot that is the same for most people? That's a good question. I don't know if there's a blind spot, so to speak, but there definitely is differences in way that peaks and valleys affect people. But it seems like, I guess if you really want, I guess where it seems to affect people the most, or from about 2 hertz to about 8 hertz, kilohertz, sorry, 2K to 8K, and then from about 12K on, people seem to be really sensitive in those two areas. Um, and then also another area that's really sensitive actually is in like the upper bass and mid bass region seems to be either a little bit more prominent for some people. They seem to sense that more than others. So I guess blind spots, I guess you could look at it that way. Headphones for top three for 250 or less. I'm going to throw the Sundar in there if you can get one for 250 when they go on sale. And then Sennheiser 580, since the 600 is usually not in the 250 range. And let's see. you could get the AKG K275s for about the 250 range, maybe a little bit less. If you want to go really cheap and don't care about quality build, you could go with the 5XX. But you do need a good, pretty powerful amplifier for that. And if you want to go uber cheap, you go Superlux HD 681, Meze 99 Classic. There's all kinds of good options in there in that price range. But my top three, 580. If I can't put the Sundar in there, so let's do 580, 99 Classic, and I'm not including the Sundar, really hurts. 580, 99 Classic, and we'll go with the K275s for 250 or less. All right, let's see here. Flagship IM versus flagship headphone versus flagship speakers. Okay, I haven't experienced flagship speakers except for like audio shows, so I really can't answer on that one. As far as IEMs and headphones, IEMs are really strange because you can, when you go flagship, you have a really massively huge price point. You can go from around $1,000, $1,200 range all the way up 3,400, 3,500 into Summit land on IEM, which I just think is craziness. And then headphones are a little bit different because you kind of have like that in between step. So you have like the 1,500, 2,000, $2,500 range, and then you have the Summit land, which is a vast difference. Whereas IEMs is not quite as significant of a difference. It's really weird. And then speakers are like crazy land when you get up into flagship world. So yeah, it's a very big window, and it kind of depends on how you view like what you consider to be flagship, because everybody kind of has different. It seems like everybody has a little different opinion on what is actually flagship. Because to some people, a $50 IEM could be a flagship, and then to others it has to be $3,000 or more. Same thing with headphones; it could be $100 or it could be $5,000 or $6,000 to be a flagship. And then others is it's the most expensive line. Period. So kind of depends on how you define that. But my thought is most expensive isn't always the best. That's kind of my point of the moral of the story. Let's see here. Speakers can produce actual stereo soundstage. Yes. Headphones can't quite do. Yes, I absolutely agree. Music sounds way more realistic on a decent speaker than a headphone. Absolutely. Not going to just debate that whatsoever. I agree. Speakers are the more realistic sound overall, but you can get some headphones that can get you pretty close. But they will never fully do what speakers can. Absolutely. Let's see. Best I Am I heard is a Blessing 2 and a JVC FDX 1. Haven't heard the FDX 1. Heard really good things about it, though. Let's see. Odin. I wasn't a huge fan of the Odin. I actually would prefer the Noble Sultan over the Odin. High-res players that are flagships. Not exactly sure. You have the Sony WN1Z, and there's a new one from Astle and Kern, which I don't remember. I don't really follow them too much. Odin is very bassy. Totally agree. Tony, I'm sorry that you don't like the Meze. I do apologize for that. That's a bummer that doesn't quite meld with you as it does with ours. Sony depth's not powerful at all. I don't have any issues, but I don't try to drive anything super hard. with my WM1A. It drives all the IEMs that I have. I don't really use it with headphones, but believe it or not, it actually did drive the Rawson audio. I was really surprised. Doesn't drive the Meze very well though, for some reason. Can't drive the Odin with it. Interesting. I did not have it when I reviewed the Odin. Yeah, I like my WM1A. I have not had any issues driving IEMs or headphones, and it has really good sound. But yeah, that is an interesting question when it comes to flagships versus other things. They just because something is considered a flagship doesn't always mean that it's the best out there, always the best available. It's kind of like buying a car. Just because it's the most expensive car might be cool and unique, but doesn't mean that it's actually any good performing. 580 is not a 58X. That is correct. That is not the same headphone. That's very true. If I said that, I do apologize. It was a mistake. 580 was the flagship of Sennheiser. Yeah. Yeah, 30 years ago, definitely it was. 580 is not available anymore. The only 5.8 series is the 5.8X, but they're a totally different headphone. You've owned Clears, HD800s. Now you have Utopia, CAF LS50 wireless, and iLoud micro monitors as my speakers currently. I think the speakers are more realistic due to the soundstage than headphones. I absolutely, totally agree. Have no debate about that whatsoever. Every speaker that I've heard has done a better, more visceral, physical job at the soundstage and a more realistic portrayal of a soundstage as far as width and imaging and depth and layering. But headphones can have they get closer than they used to, and there are definitely some that are better than others. But there is a difference between a headphone and a speaker. Absolutely. Speakers can have better bass for sure, especially if you have the right speaker along with a good mixed in subwoofer that you're not overpowering or that you have the crossover wrongly set. My friend gave me a Bluetooth speaker of 800 pounds and the connection was awful. Hopefully the speaker didn't weigh 800 pounds. I think that's the cost that you're referring to. That's an expensive Bluetooth speaker. That's craziness. And have I tried the 612 Pros? Yes, I actually have them sitting on my desk. And the 712s I heard at a friend's house a long time ago. Don't remember very much about them, but 612s I actually like quite a bit. Nice and comfortable. They just disappear on your head. They're extremely light, and the pads are nice and soft. And the leather headband is better than I remember it from days past. But it's all right. It's not a bad headphone. It is a classic for sure. If you want to watch a really funny Zeos review, I don't agree with it, but watch his AKG K612 Pro review. It's pretty funny as far as his reactions to that headphone. Do I think the 240s are detailed? I don't remember enough about the 240s. All I remember is that they're a little mid forward, and I don't recall enough to know whether or not they're detailed or not. It's been a long time since I heard them. Speakers have better bass. with well-placed subs in a fairly well-treated room. The best speaker systems below any headphones way in the low end. Oh yeah, absolutely, totally. No argument. You're not going to get an argument from me. I mean, there's no disputing that. When a speaker system is done properly, it will literally make your jaw drop to the floor. Let's see. I've seen it. He hates that is dead neutral. Do you find them engaging? Are they good for listening to music? I actually like them a lot. I do not believe that they're boring. I do not believe anything of the sort that he says, that they're dead. Anything of the sort. I think they're very engaging for the sound. Now, you do have to have somewhat of a live, DAC and amp. You can't have a A90 driving them, because if it's on an A90, they will sound dead. But if you have like a Mytek Liberty that has a very natural and neutral type of a sound signature that's very musical at the same time, then the K612s come alive. But if you have it with a dead sounding amp and DAC like he had, they will sound just like that. They're just boring as all get out, probably on something like that. So I can, I guess, agree with him in that regard. But yeah, I think they're great for listening to music. I don't necessarily agree. For one, the K371 is not clean, clear. It's very musical sounding, very bassy, very harmonish. So I think AKG can do both. I think they can lean either way. I think the older AKG before Harman joined the fold was definitely more clean and clear and more analytical sounding, whereas the newer stuff definitely leans Harman, and it is very much Harman. K7X is warmer. Yeah, I believe that's what someone has told me. I haven't heard the K7XX. Yeah, AKG equals Harman now for sure. But previous iterations before Harman came along, they were definitely more on the mixing side of things. AKG K371, good for mixing? No, not in my opinion. I believe if you're going to use a K371, you better know exactly how much you need to go down than up. They will throw your mix way off. I would not use the K371s at all. Yeah, AKG, Samsung, Harman, I believe they're all one in the same now. If you want to check so let's say you do some mixing and you want to test your track to see if it sounds harmonish and if it'll make the Harman lovers happy, sure, get the K371 and listen to it and see if it meets those standards. But I would not use it at the beginning part of your mixing, and I would not use that as a monitor. AKG K701s. I haven't heard the 701s. I've heard really good things about them though. Besides the Rad Zero was a good mixing headphone. Depends on what your price point is. Mr. Speaker's Ether C is another really solid option. You could go, since the C is not available anymore, you could go with the CX. The if you want to go a lot cheaper than that, you could go with the Hi-Fi and Sundar. You could probably get away with it with that for the most part. So I think any headphone is better than IEMs and $100 price point. Well, it depends. I mean, there's a lot of bad IEMs. And there's a lot of bad headphones. So it depends if you're comparing one versus one or overall. I think if you're just looking at the overall picture, like any headphone that's $100, clump it here. Any IEM that's $100, clump it here. You're probably going to get a better set in the IEMs than you would headphones, but you can always find a bad apple in each side. You can always find a good apple on each side too. But I think your chances of getting probably something that's more quality and better sounding, probably you would find it in the IEM side more than you would the headphone side. But I haven't listened to all the headphones in the $100 nor IEMs actually. 701 is discounted for $184. Pretty good price. With all the tube amps around, we need more high impedance headphones. All you have to do is go look at the used market. You'll find a bunch of high impedance headphones. They're pretty much out there. But just get a Sennheiser. You'll be good with a tube amp. A 701 because it's white. You wanted that. It's an interesting reason. But it's unique, for sure. Problem is that for most people, achieving great bass from speakers is very hard due to bad room acoustics. True. So headphones are a better option for accurate, satisfying bass, even cheap headphones. Well, definitely cheap headphones will give you the bass. I don't know if they'll give you the accurate bass. But yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And a lot of people just can't use speakers, because either the rooms won't allow it, or your neighbors won't appreciate you using speakers, or your wife doesn't want you to have speakers, things like that. So there's a lot of reasons why speakers aren't quite as popular as headphones are. So I understand that. I mean, that's the whole reason why I don't use speakers very much, except for desktop setups, is because of room space. And the wife says I can't have speakers in the living room or in the bedroom. I'm stuck in soundbar world. Let's see. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for swinging by. What's the most natural IEM that I have heard? That's going to be the Empire Ears ESR and also the ADV M512D. And also you could toss in pretty much any IEM that has Sonian balanced armature drivers. They are just some of the most natural and realistic sounding BAs. Yeah, living style affects speaker usage. Absolutely. Answer from Convince Me Audio. Ambient acoustic med 24. Let's see. AKG maybe the only brand that is cheaper in Europe. The 612 Pro is $130 right now. That's that's pretty cheap. That's actually cheaper than what I paid for mine. By about $20. And in regards to headphones, IEMs, you think headphones are generally better. Soundstage is larger and more realistic due to interaction with the outer ear that IEMs lack. I would kind of agree with you, but IEMs can get really close on soundstage. They do it in a different way. And I really do enjoy soundstages on some IEMs. So I think it just kind of comes down to implementation. It really just depends on the different headphone versus IEM that you're comparing. Yeah, Sony and BAs definitely for the win. Those things are insanely good. Unfortunately, most IEM manufacturers don't use Sonians. They use Knowles or something different, and Sonians are just insanely good, especially in the bass and in the tone and timbre. They just do something special. Sony Z1Rs are big and heavy. Totally agree. Sound good, but totally agree they are big and heavy. IEMs, they do work perfectly for trips and for on stage. I mean, I guess you could wear your big old red zero on the stage, but might look a little, might stand out. I don't really recommend it because they're, open back also. Best clean bass headphone, that's the Rawson Red Zero. What IEM seem to do is deep bass. Blessing 2 is flat all the way down to 20 hertz, and you can really feel that rumble that for some reason I don't feel with headphones. That's true. Some IEMs really, if when they extend down, you really can get it. It might be because it's a little bit closer in the ear that you can sometimes get that feeling. Yeah, custom in ears, you definitely can get some noise canceling, and you won't need to use actual active noise canceling. That's a very good point. Uh, yeah, it is interesting how some people lean towards IEMs versus headphones. They don't like the feel of a headphone on their head. Some people don't like IEMs in their ears, and then some don't like either one of those, so they just lean to speakers, that type of thing. It is kind of interesting how the community is so diverse. I like hearing about everybody's experiences. Say it was a close thing, but I picked Odin over the Sultan. What did you like more about Sultan? I liked the Sultan more because it seemed like it was more balanced and cohesive, whereas the Odin was a little bit more V-shaped. And I don't know, it just didn't, it sounded harsh to me a little bit, but I really liked Sultan. Sultan's, it was a little bit darker in the treble, um, which I wish it had just a little bit more air up there, but to me, it was just smoother and just more balanced and cohesive. Let's see. But I mean, I understand the pick for the Odin. The Odin has that bass power that it just like was like gets you that Empire Ears just does so well. So I totally understand that. I really do. Um, do you think cheaper IEMs should have more drivers to avoid congested sound? I mean, an expensive, capable driver can cope on its own, but cheap single driver. You know, I have I've come across this question a lot, and I've reviewed a lot of IEMs, and I'm not convinced that the more drivers is better. Um, there's some really good single driver stuff out there that just sounds really good. There's also some really good, just like 3BA stuff or some tribrids, things like that just sound good. It just kind of depends. It really comes down to how they're implemented, and it's not necessarily how many drivers, because like the M512D has 12 drivers, and then you have the one from KZ, the AS16, and the CCA C16. They all have this huge amount of drivers, and it just doesn't compete. You just it's just not implemented well. So it really comes down to how it's tuned and implemented versus how many actual drivers there are in it. Odin's fun if you can get your hands on it to test. It definitely is worth a listen. Just wasn't the listen for me. 64 Audio U12T. It's an interesting listen. I liked it, but I didn't like it. It was kind of one of those situations. T2 Lark, um, not ultra cheap. I'll go with the T2. T2 to me is the best value for critical listening IEM. Excellent tone and timbre, very good details and resolution, and it's got a very balanced sound signature. And To me, it just sounds really good. Whereas the Lark has a little bit more fun engagement side to it and a little bit more lush, bigger bass. But to me, it's not as natural and neutral sounding. Yeah, the Odin. I don't remember exactly because it's been a while since I had it in, but I did find that the better the source, the bass really came out on it. It really sounded fantastic when you drove it on like a more powerful source. I think I may have had the 789 at that time. It sounded really good off the 789. Whatever it was a desktop setup that I really enjoyed the Odin on. Blonde 03 is a good start at your IEM. And if you can get the good seal, some people can't get a good seal. Yeah, you can get some really good bass quality out of it. Yeah, the T2 Evo, I do look forward to hearing that. Suppose they have one coming for review. That will be interesting to hear. It's supposedly like a mixture between a T2 and a Moondrop SSR, so that would be an interesting sound to see if they boosted it. Hopefully, they didn't go too far over the top and make it aggressive in the upper mids. T3, if you have the T3 and you're looking at the T2, T3 is a little bit more full and bigger bodied. I did a review of the T2, which I explained that a little bit. The T3 is slightly better than everything, but the T2 is like a little bit more even and doesn't have quite the full bodiness of the T3. They're close. They're really close though. When it's cheap, maybe they are cheap. You have that much fun. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes it is just that. It's just a fun sound. Do I have any opinions on multi-bit decks? Some people claim that they sound more natural and give more details versus modern Delta Sigmas. You really want to try a high-end one. I have a Shit Audio Bifrost 2 in for review. Have had it for about a month, and the guy's in no rush for me to return it, so I get to keep it for an extended period of time. And I I really do like it. Do they sound more natural? Um, in certain ways, it does. And what to me, what it does best is soundstage, and it presents it in a very immersive and realistic sound, and does depth and layering really well, and keeps the width proper. Um, Tone and timbre is very nice. It's pretty close to about where I would really like tone and timbre to be. It's like this much difference between the Mytek Liberty and the Bifrost 2. I still do prefer my Mytek over it for the tone and timbre, detail retrieval, and resolution. But the Bifrost 2 is, I mean, it's like if I didn't have the Mytek, Bifrost 2 would be my DAC of choice. Samsung Galaxy Pros, and they sound great. They can be uh, for the portable usage. They do have a unique flavor to them. You bought the Drop R2R. I've always wanted to hear it, never got to hear it. Um, it's probably pretty good. I think you'd be all right with it. Magical is the right word for the Blonde 03. Yeah, I would agree. The one thing that the Blonde 03 struggles with is resolution. And if they could enhance that driver, smooth that out a little bit and make it so it's not quite as grainy and harsh at times, that would be a stellar IEM. Unfortunately, they've kind of made these other weird choices along the way in some of their other IEMs. I'm sorry that you got told by the P1. T2's better. Yeah, R2R is they just R2R and multi-bit. They just do something a little bit different. You just get this like lush romanticness to the music without being like overpowering and thick. It has this just comforting realism to it, and then the soundstage is just incredible. It to me it's the best sounding sound stages within the DAC types. But the tone and timbre is either some people don't like it being quite as warm and lush as it is, which is me. I prefer to have just a little bit more air and separation. The drop R2R is not what you think. Interesting. I haven't heard it, so I don't know. Regarding good bass and cheap headphones, Porta Pro, yep. KPH30Is, yep. And great for dance music. Yeah, they actually are. They're really fun for dance music. T3 cable is insane. It's crazy how much great quality you get for that cable for the price tag. Unfortunately, T2 doesn't have the same cable. It's not a bad cable though. Ooh, you paid 350 for the drop R2R and it sounds like a cheap $50 deck. Well, that's a bummer. Sorry to hear that. Well, Grotto ADE is so different. Like different from the other Grotto sounds or just different because it's Grotto. Yes, I agree. The T2 Evos can be interesting. I really do look forward to hearing it. Um, I'll definitely let you all know when one arrives. I'll post a community post, let you all know that one's in. And then if you're on my Discord, you'll probably hear me talking about it a little bit. So check out the links down below. There's ways that you can connect on Discord, ways that you can connect on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, even though I'm not on there a ton. I don't do a ton of stuff on there. Um, and other ways that you can connect to the channel or support the channel in any way. There's all kinds of links there. That's true. The Creative Arvana Lives and the Creative Arvana SEs. And even if you want to throw them into Creative Arvana Live 2s, they're all good for 50 to about $100. Big bassy fun for sure. The CCA NRA Electrostat IEM. It'd be interesting to see how it competes. I'm glad to see that they're getting the price down on those electrostat IEMs, but you can get really cheap, and sometimes you can go too cheap. Um, let's see. I heard grottos with the TT VJ Deluxe flat grotto pads sound nicely balanced top to bottom without excessive brightness and excellent low end extension, fast transients, and great resolution. Might have to check those out. RS2s. I like the RS2 when I heard it at a show. Denafrips and Holly May. Yeah, those would be nice. Start looking for Aries 2. The more videos I watch, the higher the price goes up. That's true. That's true. Um, it, Grotto's an interesting one. Like th- they all look basically the same, and they all sound somewhat similar for the most part. They don't really branch out mega far like some manufacturers. Grotto's interesting manufacturer, and they have a following. People love them. Yeah, there's definitely a preference. It seems like in the R2R and multi-bit world, whether you go Bifrost 2 or Aries 2, it kind of seems like it's one one way or the other. I've only heard one, but I really liked Bifrost 2. So that's all right, Josh. I had you covered. I knew what you meant there. Any other questions? I'm going to have to start wrapping it up here in a few minutes, but I want to make sure I answer everybody's questions or just, you know, get the topics going for sure. Aries 2 is supposed to be more airy. Like I said, Aries. So I guess we're going to be wrapping it up then. Do appreciate everybody swinging by. Oh, wait, here's one last question. Higher end Grottos supposedly have better bass extension, lower distortion, and more resolution versus the lower end ones. But I heard the SR225 as a good middle ground. I actually like. I didn't hear the 225s. I heard the 325s and really did enjoy those. So I think that there's kind of a few that are like in between. You know, it's like these are good, these are these are good, these are good. Kind of just depends. So, but anyways, with that, I am going to wrap it up and call it a day here at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Take my Sunday noon afternoon nap. I appreciate everybody joining in, asking questions, and appreciate all the thoughts and the differing opinions and the way we can discuss it. I appreciate everybody being respectful and thoughtful, and do greatly appreciate it. We'll do another live stream probably in a couple weeks or so. Let you guys all know when it comes up. If you could, if you join on Discord or Twitter or in the comments here, if Sunday afternoons work for you all, let me know. If some other time works, you know, just post your times and then we'll take kind of a general idea of what works best for everybody. Do greatly appreciate it. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye. If I can figure out how to turn this thing off.